Hello, folks, and welcome to another podcast on building high performance teams. Today, I'm delighted to have Ali Soper, who's head of content for Access People. Ali, welcome to the session. Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great stuff. So, Ali, I'm going to jump straight in and I'm going to ask if you can tell us a little bit about yourself professionally, a bit about your background, and maybe a little bit about yourself personally too, Ali Soper, the person behind the work.
Sure thing. My name is Ali Soper. I am head of content for Access People. So I joined the Access Group actually through the acquisition of MicroLearn, which is the company that I co-founded with my dad back in 2016. So I actually started in the e-learning industry back in 2010 when I joined my father's company, Jennison Digital Learning, to complete my work experience. And basically haven't had a summer holiday since. I sort of worked with him through college and through university. And then when I was due to graduate, we decided rather than kind of continue to reinvent Jennison, which is a company that was producing really brilliant but very traditional kind of click next to continue style e-learning,
Yeah.
we thought we would take a bit of a punt and founded together a new company that was focused on kind of digital innovation and a more kind of learner centric approach to e-learning solutions.
Right.
And that's where MicroLearn was born. So we launched at the Learning Technologies Conference in 2017 with just 42 compliance titles, but the promise of more.
Yeah.
And yeah, since then we've developed over 180 courses across a really broad and growing range of subject areas. And in December of last year, the company was acquired by the Access Group. So I stayed on and now look after the development of the collective digital learning resources from 5 acquired teams.
Wow.
So I have the privilege of leading the Content Collective, which they are a hugely talented and passionate team of digital learning designers and content developers. So myself, I'm a huge advocate for lifelong learning. I've always been a big
Yeah.
reader, so you'll normally find me with my nose in a book. And yeah, just enjoy learning new skills and discovering new things. That's a little bit about me.
Excellent, excellent. Wow, that's an incredible journey. Very, very exciting. And you've kind of moved from was have you did you find yourself now with the Access Group, with Access People, leading a larger team? It's I think it is a much bigger team you have now, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes, definitely. So as MicroLearn, we were a team of around 6 people.
Right.
I now lead a team of 26 people
Wow.
across 5 dispersed offices, ranging from North Wales to the South Coast. So yeah, it's a very different ball game now. So it's a lot of new skills that I'm needing to pick up, but
Yeah.
yeah, really enjoying it so far.
Yeah, incredible, fantastic, very, very, very exciting. I'm sure. Can I mean, you're Ali. I guess you're at. I mean, even though you've accomplished so much already, you're relative to some of the people I've spoken to so far. You're really kind of embarking on your career. It's just starting to take off, and you're already in a leadership position with 26 people on your team, which is significant. Can you tell me a little bit about what it means to you to be a leader?
Okay. I mean, for me, first of all, being a leader is a huge pleasure and a privilege. I think having the opportunity to guide and support a really talented team is just awesome.
Yeah.
um, I've always really resonated with Steve Jobs' famous quote that we hire great people to tell us what to do rather than the other way around. And
Yeah.
I think being a leader for me is about equipping a team with the right tools and support and guidance to allow them to thrive. Um, I've recently been reading a book, actually, a really incredible book by Kim Scott. She's former leader at Google and YouTube and Apple. And the book, which is called Radical Candor, explores the
Ah,
idea of how to be a great leader. And she breaks that down into 2 main points. And that's around caring personally and challenging directly. And for me, I couldn't agree more. I think being a leader is about finding that balance between having a genuine interest and respect for the people in your team as people, but also having the ability to challenge thought and processes and approach so that we can create that really well-oiled, successful team. And I am definitely still learning this. As you say, I'm kind
Yeah.
of just venturing into the kind of leading a bigger team. So as I say, advocate for lifelong learning. I read all sorts of books. I listen to all sorts of podcasts and TED Talks and all sorts of things, because I don't think you are ever finished learning how to be a good leader. I picked up a
Yeah.
huge amount from my dad. I owe a huge amount to him and his guidance. And now at Access, I have an even wider network of really brilliant leaders that I then get to learn from and kind of develop. So yeah, I think it's about setting the scope and direction of travel so that you can support a team on that journey.
Yeah, excellent. And it's like fantastic to hear that. And even for some of the I guess leaders with more gray hair that I've met recently, and that's actually a phrase that one of my managers used to use that I worked with. He called himself a gray-haired leader, to talking about experience. But they have said the same thing to me, that it's, for them, it's a journey that they're still on, and it's always evolving, and it's always about learning as you go. So that's a really interesting insight from you. Can I ask you, Ali, in terms of kind of planning versus intuition, where have you found the balance from a leadership perspective so far?
I think a lot of it at the moment, because my team is quite newly formed, a lot of it is intuition. It's going with my gut. It's kind of realizing that we are all humans, we're all people, we all have the same needs. And the planning, I think, comes from, I guess, the kind of the strategy level. My own leader is fantastic. He's brilliant at kind of helping me shape and form those plans. But I think so
Yeah,
much of it comes down to instinct.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So being able to think on your feet.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, excellent. Which also feeds into the excitement of the role on a day-to-day basis, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're coming into, and I love that about the role.
Yeah. Can you, Ali, you're looking at your team now. You've got 26 people there, and it sounds like you've got a really energetic and creative and team who are on board. Can you tell me what you see as the key characteristics for a high performance team?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say a key characteristic for me would be a shared sense of purpose or
Mm,
vision. I think the team I lead, as you say, they're all really passionate. They're passionate about digital solutions, about creativity and learning. And so we kind of share that common vision that we're all working to achieve. And I think it
yeah,
helps us to remain really highly focused as well as emotionally connected to the goal and to each other.
yeah,
I think trust is essential for any team, but I think it has a really direct impact on productivity levels, on engagement, and ultimately the profitability of our team. And so transparency from both me as their leader, but also the team amongst themselves and with their peers. I think transparency really encourages that kind of accountability and the integrity, which I think should be the norm in any team. Um, and finally, I would say a learning culture. I
mm,
think curiosity is such an important skill. And really, I think that's a huge characteristic of a high performance team. So, not only are we able to plan and execute the kind of high standards of work that's expected of us, but we're also a team that's able to push the boundaries of what's possible and
yeah,
encouraging team members to kind of challenge the status quo and champion innovation.
yeah. They're great insights there again, Ali. I really like those. Can you tell me about some of the challenges that you've experienced so far I think you've highlighted some of the characteristics and some of the factors of building that high performance team. What sort of challenges are you seeing today in your operations in driving that performance?
I guess partly because we're a very new team, I think there's that kind of the building of that sense of trust.
Mm,
Obviously, for that to be really effective, I think it has to be organic and it has to be both ways. So I think as a leader, we need to trust that our team are highly capable. And likewise, they need to trust that we're making the right decisions, we're steering and guiding in the right way. And I think at the moment, it's particularly challenging because we don't have that kind of in person opportunity to kind of organically build that relationship. And we're
yeah.
relying on remote culture. So many of my team at the moment, I have never met in person. And for me, that
Wow.
seems really bizarre. But I think as we come into this new normal that we're finding, um, I think it's going to be an increasing pattern. But again, it's about finding ways to not just kind of survive through this, but actually thrive on that and that connectivity we can achieve digitally. So I
Yeah.
would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges is the distance, and then the fact that just makes it that little bit harder to kind of build those relationships. And yeah, I think it's just new skill sets that we're all having to pick up.
Yeah. Wow. That's actually an incredible statement, and it makes total sense considering when you became part of the Access Group and took on this team, and with the advent of COVID, etc., you haven't met your team in person.
I know,
That's absolutely incredible, and it's almost, in my experience, it's almost unique. I mean, I'd say it's not the norm. Like, certainly if you go back a few years, it would not be the norm.
for sure.
And so you were kind of starting off building a team in this digital world.
Mm.
I wonder, so one of the questions I was going to ask you today is, like, what do you see? Do you see the fundamentals of leadership and building high performance teams changing in this era of remote work? But it feels like, or it sounds like you're starting this journey in this remote era.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've gone from having this really tight knit family business where
Mm,
we were a small company, and we were able to we were very dynamic, we were able to work very closely and in a very agile way, and now working in a much larger organization with a much larger team, and
yeah.
kind of unpacking the just I guess what would be the normal challenges of taking on a bigger team, and then you position that in 2020 and quite how that has come to pass. Yeah, I think it's definitely a unique situation and will undoubtedly shape my career and the way that I guess develop my own leadership style, because I'm
Yeah.
having to kind of, I guess, just thrive within the circumstances that we found ourselves in at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And can I ask you a bit more about, like, in terms of the use of digital technologies and, uh, I guess, in that leadership position again and building that high performance, do you have a strategy around kind of the digital technologies that you're using?
I think so. In general, I think digital technologies have facilitated this new normal for the workplace culture that we now are finding ourselves in. So, with the use of tech comms of Microsoft Teams and Zoom
Yeah.
and GoTo, I think we're able to replicate face to face meetings, training, conferencing, and the kind
Yeah.
of all important water cooler chat. So, that kind of the
Yeah.
catch ups and check ins with our team and our colleagues that we have, like when we're just grabbing a coffee. And I think in terms of a strategy, we've been thrown into needing to rely on these tools. But
Yeah.
I think we can find ways to really make them work for us. I mean, there's so
Mm,
many great features within those tools in themselves. So you've got everything from meeting notes to whiteboards to virtual classrooms. I think things like replicating webinars and trying to kind of, I don't know, we can still reap the benefits of that kind of engaged one-to-one, I guess, trainer-led learning in some ways, whilst kind of maintaining obviously social distance at the moment, but allowing us to work more than ever before, actually as a global workforce. I mean, as I say, I have a dispersed team who are across multiple offices around the UK. So actually this period of change has been invaluable and really helped me to better understand and adapt to the requirements of my team and find ways to kind of help build bonds and grow the team in this really digital environment. It's it's an interesting one. I mean, we're having to utilize different sort of Teams chats, creating a good cadence for meetings and check-ins, all hands. And I think it's definitely a work in progress, and working out how best to kind of, as I say, organically build that sense of team spirit, team trust. But I don't know where we'd be without the technologies that are available to us.
Yeah, the technologies. I mean, even the fact that like you and I are on Teams here now today.
Absolutely.
And like it's a crystal clear picture. It's really good quality, and you can pick up body language and stuff as well during the conversation, which is amazing. You know, it's fascinating. I'm thinking as you're talking here that there's no playbook for this where we are today. Everybody is learning. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. Everybody is kind of at the beginning going, okay, how do I work this out? You know, one of the points you made there that has come up a couple of times, and I don't know what the answer to it is around these water cooler conversations. So people are saying, you know, I was talking to a colleague the other day, and they were saying, you know, in the past, when I would go to a meeting, we'd sit down and have the meeting, but there was so much happening outside of the meeting itself that piece seems to be missing, that water cooler conversation. When you talk about water cooler conversations, how are they managed at the moment, or what do they look like digitally with you and your team?
So I think some of it is just creating what I'll refer to as kind of safe spaces in Teams or wherever you communicate, might be Slack, whatever that looks like, where you encourage people to share beyond their professional persona that you get in the little box on a video call. So sharing even things like how your weekend was, share photos of your adorable dog, whatever it might be, in the ways that you would just be able to naturally do those things when we are, you know, we're all together. I think humans are naturally pack animals. We like that kind of connectivity. Also things like the kind of, more so at the beginning of lockdown, I think everyone was into the Zoom quiz, but actually there's a lot that we can learn from the fact that people want that kind of I guess it's social time, because actually we spend so much time at work, and so many of our kind of, the majority of the conversations we are having with our colleagues. Now, we have a lot of the sort of first 5-10 minutes of meetings will be that kind of check in, see how people are. Always funny one when you have a meeting with a few of the same people multiple times a day, and you're not sure whether to say hi, how are you, even though you've already asked them 3 times that day. But again, I think it's finding ways to think a little bit more creatively, a little bit more laterally, as to how we replicate some of that. And sort of taking the team's views as well, kind of trying to capture some of their thoughts as to how we can do that. I think it's as I said, it's all a learning process at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of, you know, getting to know people out, like having conversations that are not about work. It's just about, you know, what are you doing, and I guess building up that relationship and building up that trust, which is, you know, as you've already highlighted, fundamental to getting people behind you and building that high performance. Can I ask you one other question, Ali? And it's around the leader themselves. And I know I said I'd ask you a couple of questions, and this one wasn't on the list. So, but it's around what you can do yourself as a leader. Are there kind of strategies that you have to put yourself in, what's the to be the best version of yourself you can be? So I've asked this question only in the last couple of sessions recently of leaders, and people have come back and they've talked about exercise or whatever it is that kind of gets them to be in a really great position and really good form when they're working. Do you have like a list of things that you do to keep yourself primed, for want of a better expression?
Um, yeah, I guess so. I would say working from home,
Yeah,
one of the big things that I find I need to do, because I tell everybody else to do it, and I strongly believe that you should practice what you preach. Um, so for me, it's things like making sure that I don't start work too early and I don't finish work too late.
right.
I think we are hyper connected now and we are always online. So for me, it's about setting boundaries and then committing to those. I really need my sleep, so making sure that I'm getting enough sleep in the evenings. I'm quite the old lady. I go to bed really quite early, but I thrive in the morning. So
Yeah,
again, I think it's about knowing your patterns, knowing what works for you. So for me, I'm most productive first thing in the morning. So
yeah,
making use of that time. I mentioned at the beginning of our call, reading books, reading other people's experiences. I love to have an audiobook on in the background. So if I'm, outside of work, if I'm driving, if I'm just doing the dishwasher, I love that kind of taking some time to step back and kind of just, have that moment where I'm relaxing.
yeah,
That's relaxing to me.
yeah.
I would love to say exercise, but probably not as often as I should. Big yoga fan.
All
Um,
right, okay.
but yeah, I think it's just about finding those things that make you feel centered and grounded.
Yeah,
Um, because I think burnout is a real issue, and I think we're going to find it even more as remote working is less of a interim and perhaps more of a permanent solution for a lot of people, or it's going to
yeah,
start being a lot more flexible. So I think we have a responsibility to ourselves, as leaders, to ensure that we are setting those healthy boundaries and we are encouraging our team to do the same, because I don't think high performance means always on. I think high performance means really working efficiently, getting the very best out of people. And I think the last thing I would say on it is just I tell people that we should work hard and play hard. So
yeah,
take that time to, be with your kids or be with your other half, or, go for your run if that's what you do, and actually take that time to
yeah.
separate, because I think that's how we as humans thrive. We find that balance. I think balance is key in all things.
Yeah, yeah, that's they're super insights. I know anyone looking at this will take a lot out of that as well. I think building in, as you're saying, building in, I guess, time for yourself in general, it's almost part of your overall work schedule. They're no longer split. They've almost become one and the same.
Very much so.
Ali, this has been a really, really insightful and interesting conversation. I thank you so much for your time. That's really, really great. And just listening to you there, I think you got some super ideas, and it sounds like you've really taken the bull by the horns on this one. No doubt, a fantastic, fantastic career ahead of you in building teams. And I wish you the very best of luck. And thank you so much again for coming on today.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks. Excellent.